Not every apocalypse arrives like thunder. Some come quietly, like a cold breath sweeping across the sea. And then life disappears. We often remember the dramatic endings, the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs, the ice ages that froze entire continents. But there is another chapter, more ancient, more silent, and just as devastating, one the world has mostly forgotten. This is the story of the Ordovician period, a time when Earth exhaled ice and more than 85% of all life was lost in silence. After the Cambrian, where life exploded in strange and surreal forms beneath ancient seas, Earth entered a new era. Biodiversity flourished. The oceans teemed with coral reefs, shelled creatures, and drifting alien organisms. To an outside observer, the planet seemed calm, peaceful, balanced. But deep beneath that surface, something was shifting. Something cold. It didn't come with fire, it came with frost. As oceans receded, glaciers advanced, and the sun no longer felt strong enough to hold life together, Earth entered its first great extinction. Life shrank back into corners of survival. Species that once thrived on the seafloor became fossils locked in frozen stone. This is the story history forgot, but today we will remember. The rocks will speak again. The creatures buried in silence will rise and tell the final chapter of a world no one remembers. Are you ready to enter Earth's first mass extinction? Because sometimes the greatest catastrophes are the ones no one talks about. About 541 million years ago, Earth entered a strange and glorious phase that scientists would later name the Cambrian period. It wasn't just another chapter in the planet's history, it was the beginning of everything. An explosion, not of fire or stone, but of life itself. In a blink of geological time, life on Earth changed forever. From a dull, lifeless world where only drifting microorganisms and primitive algae floated in the vast oceans, Earth suddenly became vibrant, diverse, and bizarre. No other time period witnessed such a sudden surge in the number, form, function, and biological complexity of living organisms. In less than 20 million years, a mere heartbeat in the age of the universe, nearly every major animal phylum known today emerged. No longer were there only blobs of organic jelly or photosynthetic bacteria. Life began to see, to move, to build shells, and perhaps most significantly, to think. This was the birth of animals, and with it, the first true race for survival began. One of the most astonishing things about the Cambrian explosion is that it seemed to occur simultaneously all around the globe. From the seafloors of Canada to sediment layers in China and coastal cliffs in Australia, scientists have found fossils of similar creatures from the same time. It's as if the entire planet declared in unison, "Now is the time to live." But what triggered this mysterious explosion? Many current scientific theories point to a combination of factors. A key cause may have been the rise in oxygen levels in both the oceans and atmosphere, the essential fuel for supporting complex life. Before that, oxygen was too scarce for animals to grow large or develop energy-hungry organs like brains and muscles. But when it became abundant, evolution ignited. Organisms could now become bigger, faster, more complex, and most remarkably, they evolved eyes. Yes, vision itself was a turning point. Once creatures could see predators or prey, nature became more dangerous than ever. The evolutionary arms race began. Defensive spines, offensive tentacles, armored shells, and even the first attempts at camouflage began to appear. It was during the Cambrian that the natural world first discovered death by predation. With hunters and hunted, food chains were born. From there, natural selection became the law of the land. The slow perished. The adaptable thrived. Evolution accelerated. A planet teemed with hundreds of thousands of newly formed life forms, many of which would vanish within a few million years, leaving behind fossils so strange that paleontologists today still struggle to determine which end was the head and which was the tail. Creatures like Anomalocaris, nearly a meter long with large compound eyes and spiny grasping appendages, became the ocean's first apex predators. Hallucinatia, a tiny worm-like being with suction cup legs and spikes on its back, lived up to its dreamlike or nightmarish name. Apabenia, with 5 eyes and a bizarre tube-like claw, looked as though it had fallen from another world. Each species was a testament to evolution's limitless creativity, no longer confined to simple shapes, but bursting with alien designs and bizarre adaptations. Yet perhaps the most sacred truth of the Cambrian is that it gave rise to us. Without it, there would be no vertebrates. Without vertebrates, no fish, no mammals, and certainly no humans. Every one of us carries in our bodies evolutionary traces stretching back hundreds of millions of years, rooted in those primordial seas. Our noses, eyes, and spines all whisper the legacy of ancient creatures long buried beneath layers of stone. We are complex organisms, but we are also descendants of chaos, born from an age of wild transformation, savage competition, and unimaginable innovation. And here lies the greatest wonder, that life, fragile, unpredictable, seemingly so easy to erase, could surge forth in such abundance, such variety, and with such relentless force. The Cambrian was a gift, an unthinkable origin, a loud, radiant beginning, a moment in time when life declared for the very first time, "I exist." And from that declaration, the story has never stopped. If you could travel back to Earth 500 million years ago, you wouldn't recognize it, not because it was old or decayed by time, but because it was an entirely different world. There were no forests, no flowers, no bird song echoing through the sky or rustling leaves beneath your feet. Instead, you would see a barren, lifeless land, a landscape of raw, unyielding rock, and a thick, hazy atmosphere. The sky might not even be blue, but instead tinged yellow from the dense blanket of CO2. Yet don't let the silence fool you, because just beneath the waves, the real world was quietly breathing. This was an Earth that had never known a footprint, a planet where no creature had yet dared to step onto dry land. Every pulse of life, every flicker of movement, every spark of evolutionary promise existed solely within the ocean. At that time, the ocean wasn't just a part of the world, it was the world. It was home, haven, and horizon, and from its depths, the most extraordinary things began to emerge. Picture this. Below the murky surface, a strange and beautiful world was awakening. There were no dolphins, no dazzling coral reefs, no sea turtles or sharks. Instead, creatures unlike anything you've ever seen, and perhaps cannot even imagine, swam, crawled, and hunted in the twilight gloom. These were boneless beings, some with many legs, others with no eyes. Some glowed faintly like fallen stars. Some wore armor-like shells, while others were soft and gelatinous, as if caught between a dream and a nightmare. They lived in a world without rules, created by evolution's hand as if sketched freely by a brilliant and mad painter. Some resembled insects, but stretched as long as an arm. Some had elephant-like trunks, yet were the size of a fingertip. Others had no clear heads, but still hunted with precision. Some even had 5 eyes, watching in every direction at once. There were no boundaries to biological creativity in this age, because the ocean allowed it. Water, the magical substance of life, cradled every oddity, protected every fragile form, and nurtured every evolutionary gamble. On land, the first footsteps might have been the wind's lonely caress. No trees, no roots, not even moss. But beneath the sea, small beings were learning to adapt. They weren't just surviving, they were evolving. Every new eye that appeared was a breakthrough. Every spine that sprouted was a battle cry. Life beneath the waves was not peaceful. It was a silent battlefield, without screams, but full of ruthless pursuits. And from these underwater wars, evolution selected its champions. Not always the biggest, but the fastest, the smartest, the most sensitive. What's remarkable is that these sea creatures had no lungs, no bones, no voice. They didn't breathe air like we do, didn't speak, didn't walk, but they could sense the world through every vibration in the water, every shifting current, every subtle change in temperature, in ways far more refined than modern animals. For them, life was a wordless symphony, played in pulses of motion, in dappled light filtering from above, in the scent of minerals drifting from the Earth's crust. This world had no clear day or night, only moments when sunlight managed to pierce the surface before vanishing again. Yet in the darkness, life still shimmered. And most astonishing of all is this: every one of us, humans, elephants, whales, eagles, even the tiny ant on your windowsill, all trace our origins to those ancient, ocean-dwelling beings. Our ancestors once had no feet, no spines, no minds. But they lived, clawed their way into existence, one heartbeat at a time, in the deep blue womb of the world. So when we look out at the ocean today, we may just see waves. But in truth, we are looking at the farthest memory of ourselves, a place where all creatures once began, where there were no lines between the weak and the strong, only those who lived and those who vanished. The sea isn't just water, it is living history, the cradle of evolution, the ink that wrote the first line of the human story. And perhaps the most sacred truth of all, even when no one was watching, the ocean created, experimented, and dreamed of life. We are latecomers, but if we understand what came before us, we may learn to better cherish every fragile being, every drop of salt water, every fossil buried beneath stone from a time when the ocean was everything. Part 3. Cambrian creatures as if from another world. Close your eyes and imagine you're sinking into an ancient ocean where light barely touches the bottom, and every current carries the memory of hundreds of millions of years. As you peer into the gloom, you won't see fish or seaweed or anything resembling modern marine life. What appears before you are beings so bizarre, so alien in appearance, they seem to have emerged from the mind of a cosmic dreamer, or perhaps from another world entirely. This is the realm of Cambrian creatures, the first animals to have distinct body shapes, specialized organs, and the clear, unwavering goal: survive at any cost. But if you think they bear any resemblance to life as we know it, you'd be wrong. They look like nothing you've ever seen, read about, or even imagined. These were evolution's first wild drafts, raw, strange, beautiful in their grotesqueness, before nature refined their designs into something more presentable. Let's begin with Anomalocaris, literally the strange shrimp. One of the planet's first apex predators, it stretched nearly a meter long, enormous for its time. With a squid-like body, large compound eyes like those of a modern fly, and two spiny hook-like appendages to grasp prey, it glided through the Cambrian seas like a silent nightmare. Its circular mouth, shaped like a buzzsaw, could crush the exoskeletons of smaller creatures. It didn't swim like a fish, didn't crawl like a crab. It slid with eerie grace across a world that had never known anything like it. Then there's Opabenia, a creature so strange that when paleontologists first reconstructed it, even their colleagues laughed out loud. A soft, flattened body, 5 eyes perched atop its head, a long tube-like snout ending in a pincer. Scientists couldn't even agree on which end was the front. For years, it was mistaken for a fantasy, but it was real. It lived, and it thrived for millions of years in a world that had no rules. Now meet Hallucigenia, a name inspired by hallucination. Its thin, noodle-like body walked on spindly legs, while terrifying spikes protruded from its back. Scientists initially drew it upside down, thinking its spines were legs and its legs were spines, a mistake that perfectly captures how surreal and unpredictable evolution was during the Cambrian period. There is no modern creature that looks like Hallucigenia. It is the ghost of a fever dream recorded forever in stone. And then there were others, so many others. Wiwaxia, crawling like a living pincushion, its body covered in scale-like plates. Morella, a small bug-like creature with feather-like limbs and elegant, soft fronds. Nectaris, half fish, half squid, gliding like a spirit through underwater mist. Each creature was a strange, brilliant spark in evolution's first great fire. Their value isn't just in their oddness, but in their meaning. Every Cambrian creature, no matter how bizarre, was an experiment in what life could become. Some disappeared after only a few million years. Others left behind legacies that shaped the future. The first exoskeletons, modern arthropods. Tentacle-like limbs, squids and octopuses. Primitive nervous systems, the centralized brains of vertebrates. They were the origins, the blueprints of all life that followed. And perhaps the most humbling truth is this: all these so-called alien creatures didn't come from Mars or some distant galaxy. They came from Earth, from the same seas you swim in, the same waters you splash in on summer holidays. Life doesn't need to look like us to be intelligent, meaningful, or beautiful. It simply needs to be. And the Cambrian period was the first era where being was enough. Logic and symmetry came later, but this was the age of wildness, of raw imagination, of nature dreaming without limits. We might laugh when we look at their shapes. We might shiver. We might even doubt they were real, but they were. They ruled this world before the first blade of grass sprouted, before the skies ever knew a wing. And though their forms are gone, their memory lives on inside of us, in our eyes, in our spines, in every unconscious reflex we possess. The Cambrian period wasn't just a time of strange creatures. It was the first living library, where nature wrote and rewrote the rules of survival, trying everything from foolish to genius, in search of one vital answer: how can something live? And from these outlandish answers came the world we now call home. Part 4. Continents and Geology. Earth taking shape. Before Earth was beautiful, it was broken.